Thanks for checking out my channel. I'm happy to have you here. Please subscribe, also hit the like button. I hope you like my voice, it's the only one I have right now. Well, I will switch from man to woman voice here and there. Thanks again. I have set up a Patreon account, so you very special people who likes my stuff can keep on getting my videos. I think it's only $1 a month and up. Thanks again, and now the stories you've been waiting for. Desert Rot. His fire was a bluff of life in the withering carcass of his company. Walton stood staring at the sands around him. The hypnotic rhythm of ocean waves, gusts of wind scattering the nightmare sand through the air like a silver whip. He had led them out there, about 300 men, wrapped in crimson robes with a sword and spear in each hand. There had been complaints of bandits in the Middling Pass, killing, raping and robbing. Walton had been placed in charge of the Legion to defeat the bandits. He had ordered bring back 4 or 5 of them, kill them and burn their bodies. 18 of the men sent into the pass returned with 5 of bandits in chains, 3 women, 2 men. Jory reported. It was the old man at the end, Commander. He bashed a stone against my cheek and stove another boy's head in through his helm. Walton examined the old man. His face was small. His eyes were deep set in his head. We caught most of them off guard, Commander. Most of our men made it out unharmed aside from one boy who caught an arrow through his throat. Did you bury our dead, Lieutenant? Yes, Commander, we burned the dead refugees. The old man made a low guttural noise and reached over into the sand. Hang them, they have hung a message to all others. There were only 30 or 40 men left now. It was tough to keep track. The 20 he had ordered into the pass had been the first to go. Their eyes yellowing into a dirty, opaque stain set far back into their skulls, they started vomiting, the dehydration and the hallucinations. What was once filled with the sounds of drinking and laughing and gambling now echoed a terrible silence. Each night more and more fires would go out until only his was left. The night before Jory died, he had come to Walton's tent. The men, there is a whisper throughout the camp that we are lost. The camp was quiet. Walton's fire was alone. Clouds rolled into the sky, and suddenly a frigid cage surrounded him. Walton removed the glove on his left hand, and the skin of his palm had begun to turn an unnatural purple color, and tips of his fingers bleeding slightly. No, Jury, we are not lost, he whispered, and his fire went out forever. Ghost story read online.
Land of Convicts and Cannibals by Jeff Brown. Tasmania, an island, was first settled as part of the British colony in 1803. The first official prison, Port Arthur Penal Settlement, opened in 1830 as a working prison and timber station. Port Arthur is Tasmania's most haunted area. People who visited this area often report ghostly figures seen throughout the building of Port Arthur. On a Monday afternoon, the ruined church rings with the sound of bells that no longer hang there. In 1996, the tragic events only added to the carnage of the area. When Mr. Martin Bryant killed 35 innocent Tuaran women and children. There is another location that has made headlines with paranormal activities, is Franklin House. It was built in 1830 by Britton Jones, a former convict National Trust volunteers, who now run the tourists' destination, have reported any experience of a paranormal bent, such as objects moving by themselves, noises in empty rooms and shadow figures in hollow wings. There are other mysteries, such as a beam of light that seems to travel up and down the main staircase before disappearing. The old Hobart Jail is the site of many ghost tours, it was the site of many executions. And one can smell of blood near the gallows area, and shadow figures are moving in the night. Richmond Bridge is said to be haunted by the ghost of George Grover. A guard was thrown off the bridge by the convicts. He tortured during its construction. Now the ghost of Grover walks under the bridge. Criminal, convicts and cannibal. Pierce was a thief who escaped from prison sometimes until he was finally hung in 1824. There are horror stories about Pierce, who murdered his 6 companions and 8 except one who died from snake bite. And he too was eaten by Pierce. He said that man's flesh is delicious. It tastes far better than fish or pork. A terrible confession by him. Finally, he was caught and was tried and hanged. Tags horror story for kids, a Ghost Stories 2018, Ghost Story 2018, Ghost Story for kids, Ghost Story Island, Ghost Story app, a Ghost Story, Ghost Story English, Ghost Stories, Ghost Story Horror, Ghost Story Kid.
Posted by user Seeker Tate. Grandparent bring home Native American doll and sh*t hits the fan. My boyfriend's grandfather is an antique collector and one of his interests are dolls. Porcelain to be exact. They picked this up and the previous owner said to be very careful with it because it was special. Completely unfazed by this statement, he didn't ask any further questions. He brought it home with him about 2 weeks ago. The first 3 days were fine and it stayed in the kitchen. The following day my boyfriend and I were laying in our room down the hall talking. It was around midnight when suddenly 3 light knocks were heard through the door. We look at each other and from the other side I hear his grandfather say his name. I get up and open the door while he was getting ready for whatever task his grandfather had in store for him. Upon opening the door, I expected to be brought face to face with him, but no one was there. I close the door and shrug it off, but after I close the door I could hear footsteps from down the hall. I go out to investigate, but in the distance I can hear both the grandparents snoring. The following day around the same time all power to the house was lost and didn't return until 5 to 6 a.m. Throughout that night only one lamp was on. Don't know how, but occasionally it went out, but for the most part, somehow it was still being powered. A few more nights go by without anything happening, until just a few nights ago, all through the night there were screams. Not in the house, but right outside. Last night, around 2 to 3 a.m. I was laying down watching videos when my boyfriend sat straight up, rambled gibberish mixed with numbers. I asked him what was wrong and if he was okay. He looked me dead in the eyes, screamed, threw himself back and continued snoring. I asked him about it earlier today and he has no memory of it. His grandfather is taking the doll to his shop tomorrow. Hopefully all things go back to normal. Ghost story real. This is a spooky story from Japan about a girl who shares her college dorm with a weird roommate that disappears at all hours of the night. When she went to university, she moved into a dorm where she met Yuko, a 20-year-old woman who she was sharing the room with. Yuki was a very strange person, like a shadow. She didn't speak very much, never smiled and always kept to herself. There was a rumor that she had lost her boyfriend a few years before. Late one night she saw Yuki getting out of bed and leaving the room. She thought that she was going to the toilet and didn't pay any attention. After a while, she realized that Yuki would often sneak out in the middle of the night and she didn't come back for hours, gradually Ryoko became suspicious. One night, she decided to find out what was going on with her strange roommate, and for that, she pretended to be asleep and waited for Yuki to go out. Yuki got out of bed and quietly left the room. She followed her, keeping in the shadows so as not to be noticed. After 30 minutes, Yuki stopped at a cemetery and went inside. Ryoko was shaking with fear and was unable to stop herself from running away. She peeked over the wall and watched as she knelt down in front of a graveyard and embraced it. It was a horrible scene. There was a look of ecstasy on her face, and she was laughing hysterically. Overcome by fear, she turned around and ran back to the dorm. When she woke up the next morning, Ryoko heard some terrible and shocking news. Apparently, Yuki had committed suicide the night before. She slit her wrists in the cemetery and bled to death. She was lying on her boyfriend's grave. Yuki didn't have any family, and nobody arrived to collect her belongings. After 3 days, she began cleaning up the room and poked around in her luggage. She found a diary and flicked through the pages. When she came to the final page, she froze. There, in blood-red letters, were the words, "I know you saw." Well, that's all I have for now. So did you like my video? I really hope so. I'm new at this, so please come back for more. I will try to get 1 video a week, then as I get better and better at making great videos I will make more per week. So subscribe and hit the like button. Don't let me down. Tell me what you think down in the comments. Thanks and goodbye.